Hey everyone, it's Tuesday, September 19th, 2017. Hope everyone's doing well. Getting ready for the big event, and I thought I would hop on here and do another discussion, broadcast, talk, just about how things are going. About this one specifically about addiction recovery, just because I know sometimes people hop on here thinking I'm gonna, reveal the truths about the paranormal or the afterlife, and they're like, oh, he's talking about recovery. And obviously it's not for everyone, but as my sponsor said, even if there's just one person who gets something out of it, that's meaningful, and very, very sound advice. So, doing very well, and hello Danielle, good to see you too. Thank you for all the hearts, and hello everyone. So, Roman, shut up! God, it's funny, every time I'm about to do a broadcast or something, suddenly he just shows up somewhere and gets really loud. Someone said something about hey Kayla, hey Jenny. Thank you everyone. Thank you, hello again, and hello to all. It's funny, the lighting in here is very strange. It's it's okay, then all of a sudden, it's just I have everything turned off. But anyways, Washington, PA. Hi, Mark. I did a case there. So I celebrated my 150th day yesterday. And, awesome, Felicity. I read something somewhere about, the anonymity of recovery. And of course, I immediately thought that was, regarding myself. And I was like, oh man, I don't want anyone thinking I'm bragging, because I was in a meeting today, and this woman, it was so funny, I had the names in there. There's a woman named Hope. There's another person named Faith. I probably shouldn't have said their names. But just really cool names. And anyways, one of the women there was talking about how she's like, well, I'm still new to this. I'm only 2 years in recovery. And I was like, whoa, wait a second. I just passed 150 days. But I got to share some a little bit today. I kind of embarrassed myself a little bit. Not very hard to do. But I was telling a story, and I'll share it with you guys. I was talking about acceptance. And, that seems to be the theme this week, as I've been reading, every day we read some called daily reflections. And, it's a passage, something to remind you about in the day. And I went to DC last week, and I was with a friend of mine, and it was really the first time in a while that I really kind of got out of my element. I've been, for a while, been in a bit of a bubble. And it's time for me to obviously get out of that. I'm taking those steps, independence, starting to go on my own, and looking for places, or looking for a house, an apartment, whatever. And I'm with him, and I think it was Saturday. And I was going to watch his practice, and I was just like, oh man, I'm around a bunch of normal people, and I suddenly found myself getting slightly nervous and uncomfortable. And obviously I don't know any of these people. I only know my buddy, and but I'm there, and I immediately found myself going, man, this would be great if I had something to drink, or if I had a Valium, or if I had, some other substance, because suddenly I felt my confidence being pushed up against the wall, or a terrible metaphor. I just suddenly felt I guess I was aware of how uncomfortable I was, and I was worried I didn't have that much confidence. And when you're early out of recovery, when in that stage, your confidence is wrecked. Anyone who's ever left, ever been divorced, walked away from an abusive relationship, recovering from alcoholics or drugs, you know what that's like. All of which are things that in the past, when I was actively doing cases in the paranormal, I sometimes came across. And now, of course, I experienced it firsthand in the sense of like experiencing addiction. Now looking back at some cases and going, okay, there was addiction there, and how that opened up doorways for them. And of course, we never included that in the show per se, because it's very personal. But it just made me think. But anyways, I ended up calling my sponsor, and I was like, so yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna get through this weekend. I have, I'm here all weekend, and I'm hanging out with a bunch of people, and I don't really know what to say. And then I'm supposed to go to New York and do, be here another whole day and a day and a half. And I'm like, I just think, I don't know. I don't think that I'm that interesting. And I think I just pretty much wanted to go and go back and just hide and stay at the lake or something like that. And he was like, you're supposed to be there. God wants you there. That's where you're supposed to be. He goes like, just go with it. He said it way more eloquently, and I told him how much I've been having trouble articulating a little bit. It's like I'm sitting back in the water, just kind of observing right now, taking things in. And, so lately I've just been kind of going, okay, sure, I'll try that out. Okay, sure, I'll do that. And I was just kind of along for the ride, so to speak, and to reconnect, and ended up being a great trip. But on Sunday, after my friend won his kickball match, he and his team went out to a club or a bar. And obviously at a bar they drink. And I actually found myself a couple times going, it wouldn't be terrible if I just drank. And of course, obviously I'm being offered drinks. And I shouldn't say obviously. Obviously I'm being offered drinks. But I just mean it was a gay bar. So, it's not unusual for a guy to be offered drinks. So, and instead I'm like, oh, I'll take a Red Bull instead. And they're just like, oh, okay. But I made some small talk. I chatted, but I just found myself, amidst a crowd that was, they're kind of laying loose and celebrating. And I went, okay, this is a little too much for me. And then, of course, the point isn't about the temptation of drinking. It was more about why. I identified it. It kind of triggered something inside me, and I quickly realized that it wasn't like I was wanting to drink to just have fun and have a good time. I was wanting to because I thought it would give me some courage. It would give me some confidence. And as I was telling the AA group this today, I said, I don't know if I don't know if some of you guys have done this, but sometimes, you just want to let loose and have fun. And they all just started laughing, and and they kind of looked at me like, you sweet, sweet little thing. And I'm like, and then of course I realized I'm talking to a bunch of recovering alcoholics. Of course they know the concept of wanting to let loose and have fun. They had a little too much fun. That's why we're all there. But so that got a nice laugh from everybody. But I quickly realized that I was wanting to use it as a crutch. I didn't feel, as I was feeling anxiety and as I was uncomfortable, I wanted to reach and get a bit buzzed or tipsy. And of course, for me, it kind of made me think a little bit that day. So, I told my friend, I said, I'm going to step out. And he was like, oh, well, do you want me to leave? And I said, no, I'm not going to be that guy. Oh, I can't be here. We need to leave. I said, you just won your kickball match. You're getting to know your teammates. Go have fun. It's DC. I am more than capable of, of entertaining myself. So, I just went and roamed a bit, and you know, and I made the decision, at least right now, not to drink or anything like that for some time. My primary problem was not alcohol. It was chemical addiction. I guess illicit drugs, but it's all the same for the most part. But I had some difficulty there, but it gave me perspective, and that's something that I'm actually grateful for. And a lot of people who I've actually been getting messages from a lot of people who are seeking advice about recovery. Or I had a gentleman tell me that he had gotten kicked out, and he's waiting for a bed to open up. What should he do? And it sounds cliche. I said, well, go to a meeting. And I said, but I know that. And I told him, I said, I know that sounds cliche, but I'm not just trying to write you off. I said, it's something that I laughed at, and I thought, man, I'm gonna feel so uncomfortable. I'm still uncomfortable when I go in there. All these people in there who are like 20, what are these old farts going to tell me, teach me, but they're 20 years clean, whatever. But as I sit there and listen every single time, I'm like, oh man, I can totally identify. I don't know if I know that when I did IOP 2 years ago, when I got sober on my own, I was still a dry drunk. I was, not actively using or drinking, but I still had the personality flaws. I was so angry and just bitter, and had so many resentments. And as I sat in the group setting, I didn't want to hear a damn thing anyone said. I just didn't really care. So I don't really know if I would have been ready back then for AA. There's also NA, but I choose AA model. They're similar, but anyways. And by the way, I'll definitely reach out and read comments. I'm just kind of giving you my spiel right now. I also have notes, so that way, hold on. Look how big this phone is. It's almost as big as my face. Just so weird when I talk. It's just kind of earpiece here, and it goes all the way out to here. Okay, my little notes, so that way I can, appear like I know that I'm talking about something. So anyways, going back to the DC thing, the gentleman who messaged me, and then tying it all back to DC, I explained to him, it's uncomfortable, but just try it. I mean, you've tried it your way, now try their way. And I was reading a story from the AA book yesterday, and it was about this woman. It was on page 400 something, and it was about a Native American woman who was, suffering from, alcoholism, but she was kind of complaining about all these people, and how they're not going to teach her anything. And this woman just said, well, you've tried it your way. How'd that work? Do you have any other solutions? And when she said she didn't, she was like, all right, I finally gave in and decided to try it their way. And that's exactly how I felt this year. I had tried things my way. When I didn't always think I was necessarily a control freak, believe it or not. I guess control freaks don't really think that they are. But when things wouldn't go my way per se, I would try to shift the situation. Not all, with good intentions sometimes, but it's still a poor way to live life. Instead of just accepting the situation. In this gentleman's case, his alcoholism addiction had caused a rift with him and his wife, and so he needed to accept that, and he needed to start focusing on help. And one thing that I saw when I was going through rehabilitation was a lot of men focusing on the relationships out in the real world, or outside of where they were, and I was very guilty of that. I thought I was going into rehab for myself and my ex, which was the dumbest thing you could think of. But obviously your mind's not right if you're kind of, going into rehabilitation. But I see comments from people, and it's from sitting where I'm at, sometimes I don't really see a difference between their addiction and, like, say, people who would write to me talking about a haunting. And what I mean by that, they're still being plagued by something. And I'm only saying this because for those of you who don't have any connection to anyone who's ever been addicted or haven't faced addiction yourself, which I hope you never do, it's something just you can kind of, I guess it's a point of reference, but it's something I truly see. It's just that there's something that they've given up their control to, and I kind of feel like 4 or 5, what was it? It's been 5 months as of Friday. Like 4 months ago, I don't know, 3 months ago. God, it's been that long already. I was, even though I got out of Oaks rehab, my mind still wasn't right. I was still doing unhealthy things. I was still talking to people who were still using, people who were bringing me down. I had to process that a relationship I was in was really toxic and not good for me. And I was being used financially. The person was just a bully, an insecure bully who was just taking money, everything from me, and putting me down but I allowed myself to be in that situation. I allowed myself to be put there, which of course brings up other bigger issues about codependency and things like that. And I think a lot of people, we don't like to look at our own problems. But when you are in the situation like I was in, you have no choice. Well, I guess you have a choice, but you need to actually go, hey, you need to, it's like an emergency. You really need to take a look at yourself and start, identifying your character defects and start working on yourself, or else you're not going to make it. And I've been blown away by how many people. I got a message yesterday on Instagram from a guy who was like, I've been watching you for 10 years and I haven't given up on you. And, he's like, I hope you look like you're taking the steps. Please don't fuck up this time, because, he goes, I know that he goes, it may seem like there's a lot of perceived pressure on you, but just be yourself and you'll be okay. It wasn't like an over-the-top fan message of being like, I believed in you no matter what you do. So what if you blew up a church? I still believe in you. No, it wasn't anything like that. It was a very cool, almost like parental type message, like, keep it up, kid. I'm 35. But even like my friend in DC, we talked, and he was just telling me about like how he stayed in touch with my mother and how she was during all of it. I felt like I was all alone by myself. I felt like I had nobody I could talk to. And granted, I had burned people, I'd hurt people, but they were all eager to come back into my life once they just knew I was okay. Once I was getting better, that's the part that has amazed me. I haven't reached out to everybody yet, because I'm still working at my core. But when I was in AA, they talk about acceptance, and someone that I knew from Oaks actually just posted something. Hold on, I have to pull it up. Oh boy, where is it? Hold on. Move this for a hot second. There it is. Okay. I've never seen any life transformation that didn't begin with the person in question finally getting tired of his own bullshit. I see any life transformation didn't begin with the person in question finally getting tired of his own bullshit. And that's, where I was at. So, after I had been arrested the second time, that was my rock bottom. Not something I'm proud to talk about. It's very, embarrassing, but at the same time, it's life. That's what's happened. And, it's just, that's what it is. I was eager to get out, and my lawyer actually who sat me down and said, what's really going on? And he talked to me about my addiction, and asked if I was ready to finally get help, and I said yeah. And my buddy in DC was talking to me about, like, he said to my mom, why do I feel happy that he got arrested? And my mom said, well, because now the ball's in our court, and now we can intervene and get him away from that situation and get him help if he wants it, and I think he does. And of course, everyone was terrified that I wasn't ready to get help. I don't blame them. In fact, the day that I got out to go to rehab, I did something I shouldn't have done, and definitely looking back now, but I mean, I understand why I did it, but I also had pushed back my flight like 6 hours, and here I was thinking, well, I just want a little bit more time to get ready before I fly down there, and everyone was, even my dad said they were holding their breaths, waiting to see if I'd get on that plane. They didn't even believe it until I finally touched. They didn't believe me. They didn't believe anything I was going to tell them, and I don't blame them. And it wasn't until they heard from Oaks that I was in their custody, so to speak, that they finally were like, okay. Whew. And yeah, it's something I wanted to share, but normalcy was another thing that I wanted to share with people, because this is something I'm going through. I'm going through it right now, actually, as we speak. Normalcy. And not every day is going to be a high. And that is something that I'm sure all of you are like, well, duh, life sucks. Well, see, we addicts, we don't like life to be dull. We don't like any moment to be dull. We need to be constantly stimulated. And, for me, like, for example, I just went to New York City, DC, and all the things I did in that time period. Then Pennsylvania. Decided to come back a bit early because I just didn't want to, float around for 7 days. Plus I wanted to see Xander. Debating about whether or not to take him up. But, oh no, I just lost normalcy. I came back, and then I was like, okay, all this cool stuff had happened, and just even like personal stupid things, like I went out shopping, got a bunch of new stuff, clothes, and like I was just like, man, I'm feeling good about myself, and then the next day I'm like, life sucks. Now what am I gonna do? But it's so funny because they have these promises in AA, and for anyone who's suffering from addiction or alcoholism, I'm sure you've heard of it. If you're using it right now, it's probably not going to make much sense. God, I don't want to be in your position, but I have been in your position, and it wasn't that long ago. I wanted to help, but I didn't know how, and any opportunity to get clean, it just seemed, I don't know. Let me just try one more day of this. Things will get better, and they never got better. But because I was so fucked up, and not in my right mindset, I was able to tolerate another shitty day for like another 6 more months before I think most normal people would say F this and leave. I didn't know how to leave the drug. Someone said to me after the meeting, that little drug was their best friend, like, I don't want to say that was me, but I have to ask myself if that's true, and there were many times where, I decisions I would make over my friends, my family, my own well-being, for the people I would associate with, for that drug. Traveling, like, oh, I can't travel unless I have that. And going to people's homes, like, and trying to hide it, trying to hide your addiction. My God, the people are cool now, but I've been reconnecting with some people who I've interacted with in the past 2 years, and they were just like, yeah, and you did this, and I'm like, oh God, that's right, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. And like, yeah, we knew while you were staying here, but it's okay. And I'm just like, I'm really sorry. But for me, I'm always looking for it took me some time to realize this, so a high in life even. Like, I will run around, and I will sit down for 2 hours, and I go, oh my God, what am I going to do? Man, and as I've told you guys before, mornings were Victoria, Starbucks, another one of my addictions. Apparently there's like a super meth coffee. It doesn't actually have meth in it, but one guy in the meeting was talking about how he got this super coffee, and he said afterwards he felt like he did something wrong. He had relapsed from taking it. And I don't know, but a couple people in the room apparently were aware of this type of coffee. I guess you can get it at Walmart, but I was like, oh man, gotta avoid that. But yeah, no, okay, so I was talking about, like, the downs of wanting to get out, and then of course, while being sober, kind of dealing with normalcy. When you're in addiction, you're not at that stage yet where you're dealing with normalcy. You're still trying to get to that point. We lie, us addicts lie all the fucking time, and what's funny is, we think that we have everybody fooled. We think that everyone is convinced of our lies, and that ain't the truth. And we think that we are in control, which is insane. As I was talking in the meeting, this woman said, I like to go to bars now and just watch people, see how ridiculous they get. And she goes, we're quick to forget how shitty our lives were. My life was shitty before I relapsed, to a degree. I had a lot of things going for me. You guys know, I was the star of my own TV show, which was a big hit, a book, all these other promises and guarantees for so many other things. When I fell apart, obviously a lot of that went away. I also just backed away from a lot of it, but and as some of you guys know, right now my reputation is a bit tarnished, and I have to accept that. And that doesn't mean I'm going to take beatings nonstop, or anything like that. I'm trying to march forward in life, and I know some people just want me to lay down and die, but that's not going to happen either. The woman was talking about how there's that woman, there's another woman who, she talks a lot, she tells some really cool stories, and she was talking about how there was a girl she knows in, I forgot what it was called, ALR, and she's talking about how, she's talking about her boyfriend, this boyfriend, and she was all about that, and then the woman in the meeting asked this girl, where do you live? And she's like, I'm homeless. And she's like, you're all about this guy, but you're homeless on the street. And she was like, I had to remind myself that's how I was. And that's something I have to remind myself too. If you guys knew where I was at and how low I was, I don't know if it would shock you. For those of you who have never witnessed this type of tragedy, I don't know, maybe it'd shock you guys. For those of you who have, it probably wouldn't shock you. But and that's something it's not that I'm uncomfortable to talk about it. It's just that some things I should keep to myself, and within my own recovery. But there are certain things I choose to share, and I'm very well aware that, I get people who say, oh, you shouldn't have said that, or whatnot, and you're right, it's a learning process. But as much as I like being a private person, you kind of think that's not true from all this, but I also realize that it's sometimes I've just accepted. My drug abuse, all my antics are very public, and I think it shocked a lot of people to see someone who was doing this suddenly fall into that. I think it should be a lesson that I'm sure many of you already know all too well, that it can happen to anybody. It can bring anyone down. But if you're addicted, or someone who's addicted, you're also kind of dealing with the vicious cycle. And I can tell you that it does get better. That's not me just saying wishful thinking. Think about it. You're getting off of drugs or alcohol. Your life is only going to get better. There's nothing I can say or anyone can say that will force you to see that. I asked the court to go to recovery, and they said yes. And then when I cleaned up, they were like, okay, cool, awesome, proud. The judge even said he was proud of me. But, or something along those lines. But my suggestion is, or for me, there were so many little tiny moments, these little aha moments that happened around me, like from my lawyer to my mom making the decision to just take a leap of faith again, that maybe this was the time that I'd be ready for help. I didn't expect to get any help after this last fall. I thought, that's why I didn't talk to anyone for a couple days. But and then, of course, when I went into the Oaks Recovery, I highly recommend that place. If if anyone is suffering, you can even call them. They'll talk to you. Oaks Recovery, I think it's oaksrecovery.org. They're very back to the basic. It's a back to the basic movement, but they care so much. And when I was there, I didn't want to talk to anybody at first. But the people, and listening to their stories, going into the meetings and hearing their stories. Sometimes I said I would always talk in every meeting because I'm a bit shy and nervous. So I was like, well, I'm going to talk every meeting. And sometimes I'm like, my name is blah. I think one time I even said my name is an addict and I'm Ryan or something like that. But it's just like, you just keep going forward. It's life, normalcy. You're going to have those incidents. You're gonna fuck up, and that's going to the whole normalcy thing. That's just life. Life is gonna be shitty. Life is hard. I have this event coming up this weekend. I haven't seen a lot of these people since before my relapse. The last event I held was December 2015, How the Ghost Stole Christmas in State College. I had a relapse just a couple weeks before that event. I wanted the event to be in State College because State College means something to me, and it's the birthplace of PRS. And I felt as if I had contributed some negative energy to that place. And I'm hoping that this event and reuniting with all these people will somehow, maybe karmically, or just maybe just for memory, it'll be just like, wow, we had fun. Like I'm taking Robbie, who is like a different world in it, from a different world in my head, now going to like Penn State, and I'm taking him like Shingletown, which most of you guys are like, what's Shingletown? But I'm just so looking forward to all these people that I have not seen in so long, are coming under one roof, and I have a lot of friends who are coming too. and who just want to be there, for my first return. And, if you asked me like 4 months ago, I didn't know how I was going to get through anything 4 months ago. Not a goddamn clue. Pardon my language. I'm sorry for using the Lord's name in vain. But every worry I've had has worked out so far. That's the crazy part. I'm not saying it's magic. I'm not saying it's, I'm not saying that it's not magic. It's but good things will happen, and when you're in your right state of mind, you get your control back. I mean, aren't you tired of, not being in control? You may think you are, but that's not life. Not every day is a holiday. I'm sorry that I, for a while, believed that I could do things my own selfish way. And that has affected people, even you fans. So, that's my life. Is I'm dealing with confidence. I'm dealing with getting back out there. I'm getting better. I'm feeling better. The smoking is decreasing, because that's got to go. I'm ready for that to go. So I'm decreasing. But it's my mom's just like, don't worry about that just yet. But it's time for me. And you're hearing from a guy who went from moderately decent success to homeless and down in the dirt, to now only 5 months in recovery, having so much of that starting to come back. It's because I had people who love me. I have people who love me. You have people who love you. You gotta make that change. And maybe if you're watching this right now, whoever you are, maybe 5 months from now, 2 years from now, I don't know. Maybe something will click. I'll take some questions here in a second. But I'm still struggling. I want to share that with you guys because I think it's important. I honestly was not really game to do this, but my sponsor of all people, and others were just like, I think you really need to spread the message. And I was like, I can't even really finish a sentence right now. Which is so not like me, I mean, I gave talks all over the country, to thousands and thousands of people. It was live on TV many times, and but then here I am. I'm just like, but I'm listening. And one thing I am a little down about is I haven't had time to read your guys' messages as much, because my God, those first few months out of recovery, the emails I got from people sharing me their stories, I don't know how much I don't know if you guys will know how much that really meant to me, or how much it means to me still. Sometimes all I would do is send you guys a thumbs up. Sometimes I didn't respond. I tried to respond to a ton, but I read them, and I sometimes would just sit down and I would read, and not something I've done before. Like I would get overwhelmed with messages, emails, and stuff when the show first came out. And I just kind of didn't do it. But this time around, I sat down, and the messages weren't like, "Hey, I'm a fan," or "Hey, blah blah blah." It was more like, "Here's my story," or "My sister went through this," or "I just went through this with my spouse," and it was just very powerful. I needed that. As selfish as that sounds, I kind of needed that energy for a while, and I'm not saying I don't anymore, but now I know it's time to kind of start giving back what was freely given. I'm still trying to figure out how to do that. There's one thing I've been talking about with another PRS member who is a recovering addict as well. We were talking about starting a Facebook group where I can specifically kind of talk about this stuff, and not always have it on my main page. I don't mind doing it here, but obviously I'm known for many different things, and so like I kind of want to have a place where like people can go and talk about recovery and addiction. I'm not saying I'm opening up my own recovery thing. I'm not claiming I'm an expert. It's just to talk. It's like a community, and I'm willing to go on there, and I'm sure others are too. It just seems to be something I'm meant to do right now. And so I'm just going to accept that. So, anyways, I'll look to the comments now. Ryan, you piece of shit. Okay. See, it's not that bright in here, but my God, the damn camera is just like you'd think it is. Let's see if I can just. Oh, I just blew something up. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm already public, so I'm not saying that, anonymity is a very important thing for recovery, and it's something I respect. Obviously, I don't have that per se, but like, for example, some people have figured out in AA who I am, but they came up to me and said, look, I'm not going to broadcast it. Like, they'd come up to me after the meeting and go, oh my God, I thought that was you. What are you doing here? And I'm like, I'm in recovery. And they're like, you're from here? And I'm like, yeah, I'm or like when I was even state college, it was like, it makes sense, state college, a lot of people know of me there, but afterwards, a couple people come up to me and they would say, I'm not going to tell anybody. And, but, that being said, I'm freely doing this, so, I mean, I understand, it's just part of it, I mean, there are, other Vicky Cox, that's the plan. Jessica, there are, I don't want to name God, what's the name of that foundation? There are a million ways you can go about getting into rehab if you don't have insurance. Is it the Jake Foundation? Hold on, let me ask somebody who would know these sort of things. Hold on. Okay. I just asked the person who would know that sort of thing. But, like, for example, I mean, the people at Oaks Recovery, oaksrecovery.org, you can just talk to them. They're based in South Carolina. It ain't a bad idea to get out of the place you're at and to go somewhere. Now, Oaks Recovery is for men only, but they do provide resources, and help. And you can even like the Oaks Recovery page. Yeah, I think you need more time for your own recovery. Well, me doing a video every so often isn't terrible, and this is part of my recovery, but thank you. I think Ed said, does sharing your story help with recovery? Yeah, oddly enough. I was doing it a little too much in the beginning, but that was just me. That's how I do things, I guess. I was just kind of screw it. I was just marching forward, and like. And then after a while, I said, okay, let me just lessen on these. It was kind of like catch up. I mean, like, I was absent for largely 2 years. I wonder why. Sometimes I really wish I didn't relapse. Well, I mean, duh. But I really wish I didn't relapse in 2015. I had so many great things happening. I'm not saying I don't now, but I mean, I did Camp Paranormal 3, which was a great time, and then like a week later I relapsed, which is just, people were just like, how? But there was just some things I was missing in my life that kind of allowed for that. The Jake's Foundation is one. That's what I thought it was called. But I didn't want to like give the wrong foundation. People go there and it's like, this is for gender transition. This isn't what I wanted. But anyways, oh God, that's a good question. How can I get back to that? Oh wait, you think? Oh God, Crystal, she asked if I think two people who are in a relationship. Hold on, I have to get that. Should go to two separate rehabs. Yes. I can tell you that I didn't want to hear that. When I was in a relationship, me and my ex had entertained the idea of going to the same one. But like, okay, like say both of you are very serious about going to rehab. You have to literally break away and focus on yourself. And if you're in a relationship and you both are addicts, therefore you have drugs or alcoholism in your dynamic. Look, whatever it takes to get you into rehab is the most important thing. In my case, I went to rehab. And I was trying to deal with a relationship where that person was still using while I was in there, and like the whole universe was saying to just step back from that, but I was still kind of just like, oh no, I must, I don't know, I can't even explain it now. But my point is that you're going to need to focus on yourself, and you're going to need to, I can't tell you how exactly to do that. That was a big struggle for me. There was a guy who was also in rehab with me who his girlfriend went to rehab at the same time, although obviously in different places. And the first week he was there, all he kept, worrying about was, what were they going to do when he got out? Like, was she still going to be there for him? She might go to this transition house here, and he doesn't know if he wants to go there. And I'm like, and it was interesting is as I was worrying about my relationship at the time and my thing, I was looking at this and I was going, oh man, this is kind of like what I'm doing. And it kind of slowly had me realize maybe I need to kind of focus on myself a bit more. And I had to kind of tell him that. And it was so weird hearing me say that because I'm like, okay, I gotta apply this to myself too. But I was, I saw him transition in that time from worrying less about that. But it's, if both of you are willing to get help, I'm sorry for jumping around here. I was trying to find the best way to talk about this, but if both of you guys are ready to get help, that's great. But at the end of the day, you just gotta go, okay, I'm going to rehab. Boom. You can go, I need to make sure I have my car payments and this and that. Like, for love of God, your family is gonna be more than happy, above anything else, to actually help you if you're going into rehab. And maybe your situation doesn't allow for that. I don't know what your family situation's like, but you should definitely go to two separate rehabs. You can ask the rehab center yourself. I don't know of anyone that will really take you, because most rehabs, they focus on just one gender. So like if you're going here, like it's all women. It is like a breakup, Crystal. And that's kind of something I don't want to say hesitant to tell you. I don't want to discourage you. But Robbie from Oaks can tell you this, or anyone, but the odds are look, if you guys are meant to be together, it'll happen. But think of it this way. If you're going to improve your life and get off of something, which is an absolute must, that's a good thing. And if the relationship can't last because of that, then there's your answer. It's going to be hard, but that's, again, life. Robbie said something to me once. He goes, does God not take care of the plants and the trees and the animals? And I'm like, well, yeah. So you don't think he cares for those critters, but doesn't have a plan for you? He's going to take care of you. And that's true. But yeah, when you break up, you think like it's never going to happen again. I'm dealing with that with my brother right now. He's going like, oh, what we had was special. And I'm like, oh, God. But just focus on healing yourself first, Crystal. And if you have the means to go into rehab, just do it. You'll see everything come together. That I'm willing to say, I promise you. I'm confident enough to say, I promise you that it will work out. It may not work out the way you want it to, but that's something that we in life, normal people already know. Life doesn't answer to us, like we have to accept the fact that life doesn't happen the way we want it to. And you know what? That's a good thing. We don't always know what's good for us. Dennis, I agree. I definitely am. I'm making steps to go back into the paranormal. My recovery, my this message, whatever you want to call it, like that's a part of that. Believe me. Oh man, tell me what I could say to my adult son to make him go. Cindy, I should have you talk to my mom. There was nothing she could say. Do you know what it was like? Well, actually, you probably do. I don't know what it's like, but to have her try so hard to tell me, or to, she was missing her son. And all the meanwhile, I'm with people who don't have my best interest. I'm doing, she had no idea where I was. My God, the lighting. Had no idea where I was. And, like, my buddy Topher was like, I shouldn't have said his name, but my buddy was like, sometimes he would call her and say, hey, I heard from him. And she was like, okay, so he's not dead. Okay, so today, no, he's not dead. And, I had a friend who's also going through that, and I can't. If I had knew the answer to that, I guess, I don't know. Maybe I would know. My mom had told me she loved me, she wanted to see me go. September of last year, she held an intervention for me, and I chose not to do it. And had all these reasons why it wasn't right, and oh, she was a wench, and oh, she didn't understand, but these people understood. And they do it because they love you, so you just have to be there and be ready for that time when he's ready to go. That's the best thing I can suggest. Thank you, Colleen. Thank you. It's going to take some time for me to heal from the abuse I put my body through. If you are in addiction, be prepared that, yeah, you're going to struggle with that a little bit. You're borrowing and taking from sources that you have no right to do that to. So therefore, there are consequences. I'm surprised my energy level isn't low. I thought it really would be. But, I don't know. That's very surprising to me, but, my face still needs to fill out a bit more. I'm still a little thin. I'm trying to eat more protein and stuff. But that's just the way it is, and some people, depression, big thing to deal with when you are going through addiction. So, or when you're getting out of addiction. So, you're going to be depressed, you're going to be sad, you're going to have to deal with the things that you did before, and that's understandable, Right. So give me like 15 minutes.
No, it's urgent. Jordan, we're gonna need to go pick him up from surgery here soon.
What?
Yeah, he's getting surgery on his ass.
Very funny.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Joking.
Well, text me in 15 minutes.
Okay.
He's trying to get my attention to pull pranks, saying my brother had ass surgery, and it's an emergency. Sibling rivalries. Hi, Emily. Working upload program. You're gonna cry at commercials. Yes. Yes, you will. And you're gonna have to get. A guy actually came up to me today. It was really nice, and gave me some small talk. And it's when you're the new guy, or you're that, like you just kind of stay reserved and in the back. But he's made an effort to come up to me. I think he's around my age, maybe a bit younger. But he came up to me and was just like, "Hey, after I shared what I shared in the meeting, he was talking to me about." Emotional therapy and you have to kind of deal with how you're feeling. And he was like, when I first got into this, I was like, oh my God, you're just man up and move forward. But yeah, that's the case. But at the same time, you got to be a bit more in touch with what you're going through. Things that we addicts, we don't want to deal with. Not even addicts, just a lot of people in life, we don't want to deal with these situations. I won't lie, there's some things that I have to ask myself, am I pushing this off, or am I don't know. Unhealthy things, yeah, if you have the ability to just push that away, that's great. But if not, And, I want to say that, when you get clean, when you get better, you'll be the person that you truly are. I mean, there are people I know who, I won't lie, there's people I care about who I believe might be still using, and I pray for them, and I hope that one day they'll get better, and, and they'll be who they're meant to be. For myself, a lot of you guys have seen who I was before addiction, and you guys saw who I was during addiction. It changes you, and that's something. It's a sad thing, but you have to just, when you're going through it, you're really being the most selfish as you can be. Something has to knock you out of it, and I don't have enough experience in seeing a lot of people yet walk in through those doors and say, this is what it took to get me clean and sober. I'm kind of in that new era where I'm that guy where people are kind of sharing advice to me. I'm hoping I can make it to 6 months. Logan says getting tattoos is really helpful for me. It was therapy for me. Yeah, the tattoo I got last month was definitely that, and then I'm getting another tattoo this week. And but as I was getting the tattoo, my guy was like, "Are you all right?" I'm like, "Yes." He's like, "You're in pain." I'm like, "I need to feel the pain. It'll help me remember." It was a joke. It was from a TV show, but at the same time, it kind of wasn't. It was But I mean, it's like, for example, at my 6-month mark, I'm celebrating by skydiving, which is next week. Or next month. So, I mean, that's something I've always wanted to do. I mean, nowadays, I think it's kind of a normal thing to do. But for me, it's just like, even if it only lasts 10 minutes, it's like, or 2 minutes, that's still like oh my God, it's just something I wanted to do. And there are moments like that where I'm just like, I gotta do this. Boom. I have to, I don't know. But I'll be celebrating 5 months at PRS Homecoming. And I'm really excited about that, and to reunite with so many people. And yeah. How's your sleeping any better? Jamie, it's gotten better, but at the same time, I still wake up. It happened to me while I was in state college last week. I woke up and, I just had to get up and just have a cigarette and just listen to the sound of silence, as they say. So, but yeah. All right, guys. Well, it was a good chat, and thank you very much for tuning in. And I just wanted to do this before I went to PRS Homecoming, and I will be doing a live thing at PRS Homecoming, a ghost tour, and then what else? And then we're doing a live Twitch broadcast this weekend, which will be cool. Can't wait to see everyone there, and just keep a lookout for when we put that Facebook group together. And if you can say a prayer for me, that'd be great. And I will, pray for all the people who are, in recovery or who are still out there sick and suffering. And this damn hurricane that's coming, I really hope. My God, I really hope it misses the U.S. this one. They said it was gonna be a busy hurricane season, but wow. So it works if you work it, says Eva. Very true. Thank you, Emily. Said congratulations on 5 months. You're welcome, Tina. Said thank you for the chat. See you on Friday, Jenny. All right, guys. Much love. Soldier on.